Welcome everyone. We're thrilled to have you join us for today's webinar on the life of a college swimmer in the United States. Whether you're a student, parent, a coach, or someone that's simply exploring the path of collegiate athletics, we're here to give you an honest and practical look on what it's really like to swim that side, both in and outside of the pool. Okay, my name is Brady Samuels, and I'm a former Division II college swimmer. Swimming has been my whole life, and I attended Rondebosch Boys up until 2017. And in 2018, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to go abroad and compete in the US as well. Okay, in 2022, I graduated with my bachelor's degree, and in 2023, I completed my fifth year, graduating with my master's. Okay, swimming at a high level and managing full-time studies, it's highly possible. And I work with Sable International, who helps families and student athletes navigate the complex but rewarding journey of studying abroad and competing that side as well. I'm also very excited to welcome our guest today, Michael Houlie, a youth Olympic champion, a world champs competitor, 2020 Tokyo Olympian, and swimmer at the University of Tennessee. Okay, his story is incredible, and I know you all will take a lot away from his experience and everything he had to endure on that side. Here's what we'll cover today over the next 40 to 45 minutes. You'll hear both my perspective swimming at the Division II level, and then Michael's perspective as well, swimming at the top Division I school, with examples of daily training schedules, training intensities, and also how to balance your time with having a demanding schedule that your coaches and your professors lay upon you. Okay, we'll also have a look at the academic and athletic balance and how we manage studies alongside a challenging training regimen. We'll also have a look at what's life outside of swimming and the support structures that we have in place. And of course, we'll interview the main man himself, Michael, where we'll go deeper into an elite Division I program, including challenges, his cultural adaptation, and advice for future student athletes looking to go that route. We do have a chat box, so you're more than welcome to drop any questions in there any point throughout the webinar. We'll collect them as we go, and then later on after the interview, we'll address them. Before we dive into the chlorine and the class schedules, I'd also like to briefly introduce Sable International as a company. Okay, we're a global business that specializes in helping people internationalize themselves, their families, and their businesses. Okay, we've been around for over 2 decades, offering cross-border wealth management, tax, offshore funding, real estate as well. Okay, so our team is trusted globally, and we're dedicated to making global ambitions a reality. From a study abroad sports side, our team has been around since 2015 and has placed athletes across all levels of university sports, from your top Ivy League schools to your Division III colleges. Okay, we've helped place over 700 athletes to this date, securing around $60 million in scholarships over the last 10 years. And with that, we currently sit with a 100% placement rate. So I think we're pretty good at what we do. These are just some of our success stories. We have James Freeman over here. I was lucky enough to have him as my teammate at Vineyard Swimming Club down here in Cape Town. He went off to the University of Michigan. Gina Miller started at a junior college, Indian River State, and then transferred recently over to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Rita Nodia went to Southern Illinois University and was recently the valedictorian of her class for chemical engineering. Michael Deans also started at a junior college and then transferred over to University of Alabama, where he just graduated with his master's as well. Okay, you can see there Lana Jansen as well, went to Missouri State University. And Luke Altman, another teammate of mine, started at a junior college and then went over to California Baptist University. Okay, well, let's get into the meaty part of the webinar for today. We'll just run you through the typical week there, what it looked like for myself as a Division II swimmer. Typically, this was my life during the season. Sadly, I was never a morning person, but you'd have to wake up 5:30 in the morning and then head to the pool for your practice, because you have practice from 6 to 8. Often that morning practice will be your higher intensity work. If you're lucky, you could do some technical drills if the coach is feeling good that morning. And then 8 to 9, you'll have breakfast. You'll go straight from the locker room, because from 9 to 12, you'll have your first set of morning classes. Generally, it will be 2 to 3 classes depending on the day itself, but it wouldn't be more than that. 12 to 1, you'll grab lunch. Maybe you meet with a study group. And then from 1 to 3, you'll either sit in the library, catch up on any assignments you may have, or you may even have to get into some more classes as well. 3 to 5 p.m., you'll have your afternoon practice. Most of the time, it's going to be a swim. Even though you want to be in the weight room, you want to not be in the pool for a second time that day. But if it's not in the pool, then you'll have a weight session or you'll have a dry land session. And then after that, 5 to 6, you'll have your team dinner. Often it will be mandatory, where you'll just go sit with your team in the cafeteria. And without a doubt, after all your practices, you'll be eating at least 4 or 5 plates in the cafeteria. But it's also a good time to bond with your team and your fellow teammates during that hour long. You could even sit there for maybe an hour and a half, just talking and so on. After your dinner, depending if the university itself maybe has a basketball team or football team playing a match that week, you do your homework, have study groups, any sort of recovery that you may need from 6:30 until around 9 p.m. And then after that, shower, 9, 10 p.m., you're in bed. Doesn't sound that exciting, but after a long day with your practices and your classes, you're going to feel very exhausted, but you'll be satisfied with how productive you were that day. So even though Division Two doesn't always get the same spotlight as your Division One universities, the training is still incredibly rigorous. Okay, we trained about 20 hours a week, including doubles, multiple days a week, and dry land or gym sessions in between. Okay, so by mid-season, your body is tired almost all the time, because you're balancing strength training, power sets, lactate sets, your recovery swims, all while you still have to go to class and you sit in there, but you feel like your brain is fried, or you may be walking in between your classes around campus, and your campus could be extremely massive. So when you're thinking about recovery, it's not necessarily optional. It's part of the grind that you have going on being an athlete and a swimmer on that side. So your ice bath, your stretching, your foam rolling, lots and lots and lots of sleep. Essentially, that's how you survive. Okay, your days are packed because you're juggling intense training and you're a full-time academic, but over time, it teaches you discipline, prioritization, and how to take care of your body and your mind. The mental side of things is just as tough, because you're constantly balancing your academics, team expectations, and even your own personal goals. Okay, sometimes your body is doing everything right, but you're mentally exhausted from your midterms, or you had a heavy week. Okay, there's weeks where you're writing a paper on the bus back from a meet, or you're trying to focus on morning practice, but essentially you have an exam later on that afternoon. So I think the biggest challenge is just trying to stay motivated and consistent, and not just when things are going well, but especially when they're not. Okay, I found that creating structure and leaning on teammates helped a lot. We all pushed each other through those difficult days and those tough weeks that we had. When you're talking about competition season, it gets intense, but I think that's one of the most fun parts. I think Michael will touch on that a bit later as well. You typically have dual meets against your neighboring universities on the weekends, and then you get to travel for your bigger mid-season or conference championships in December or February. During that meet season, it involves waking up early, driving hours on a bus, racing all day, and then driving back the same night. And then you may even still have class the next morning. Okay, it teaches you how to adapt quickly and show up under pressure. For many of us, those were the most memorable parts of our college experience. Now let's talk about something that often gets overlooked when people think of college swimming and swimmers as a whole, the social side of it. It does essentially exist. Okay, it's not your typical college partying experience because sometimes the perception of your US colleges and your US universities, that's how many people see it. Okay, you spend so much time with your teammates that they basically become your second family. We'd hang out on weekends, go out for team dinners, celebrate after your galas, or even just to chill and recover together there after practice or a long traveling competition period. Universities also host a ton of activities, and athletes are encouraged to be part of that broader campus community. This will be maybe your homecoming events, sports pep rallies, multicultural nights, to your academic clubs and your intramural sports as well. So there are plenty of opportunities for swimmers and other athletes to get involved beyond just being in the pool itself. Okay, some schools even have athlete only events like your formal banquets or your AGMs or any leadership retreats. So, yes, it's a tough, demanding schedule, but it also comes with unforgettable memories, friendships that last a long time, and moments of recognition that make all the effort worth it. Now, I'm incredibly excited to introduce our special guest today, someone whose journey truly captures what it means to thrive both in and out of the pool. Michael is not just an elite swimmer, he's a youth Olympic champion, world championship competitor, and also an Olympian. Okay, in 2017, he represented South Africa at the FINA World Junior Champs. 2018, won gold at the Youth Olympic Games in the 50 best, also broke that record as well. 2019, competed at the FINA World Champs and was also named to the All SEC freshman team at Tennessee. 2020, represented South Africa at the Tokyo Olympic Games, and then in 2023, earned a spot on the All SEC first team at his university. Okay, Michael trained and competed in one of the most competitive swimming environments, the SEC conference, and he brings not only experience but perspective as someone who made that leap from South Africa to the US college system. Michael, we're so glad to have you with us. You can start off by maybe telling us a bit about your story and maybe how you ended up in Tennessee.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here today, just to share a little bit about my story, and how it can really help you guys, prepare for the future and really, position yourself to make those decisions. But yeah, for me, obviously, proudly South African, grew up in Cape Town, and I went through the whole schooling process. Um, as a kid, I was a very active kid playing multiple sports, but I'd like to say that swimming found me. Um, I think it was maybe at one of the level three, or I think it's junior nationals is what it's called now. I broke the SA age group record for, I think it was 14 or 15-year old. I did it by accident. I wasn't really training for it, but it just happened. And since then, swimming has just been my life, right? And up until from the age 14 through 18, I decided just to focus a little bit more on it because there was definitely a lot of potential at an early stage, but it obviously took the discipline, the hard work, and just the commitment to it. Um, but I'd always seen myself and envisioned myself swimming in America and going to college. Just knowing that America is one of the fastest swimming nations in the world, um, for a reason. It just shows that the system that they have set up here, it works. It's great, and highly competitive. And so, in my mind, I was like, this is the place to be. I was very fortunate that the World Junior Championships in 2017 was in Indianapolis. Um, and I was obviously that was one of the first times that I was in America, and I got to meet with a bunch of college coaches and really set up that connection. But I'd been doing the work before, right? And I think the way that Tennessee and all the other colleges that I was speaking to came into the picture was I went through a recruiting agent, right, who is in America, but that was very connected to South Africa, and so it's all about the connections, right? I think obviously, from what I've heard now, Sable International is a great connection to have, right? And it really just takes one person that just has that experience and the knowledge, right? And from there, you just really gotta play to your strengths, um, know the swimmer and what your goals are, um, and just follow your heart. So it's really just brought me to where I am today, Tennessee. And I've been in the US for 6 years now. I've just wrapped up my master's in May, and I'm currently swimming professional, and working towards the LA 2028 Olympic Games. So,
Nice. Excellent. And I'm sure you and multiple other swimmers must be glad that the 50 meters are now incorporated in the Olympic Games as well.
oh yes, I think it's great for the sport. The fact that they've had it at all the other competitions and all the other meets, like the World
Hmm.
Championships, Commonwealth Games, right? It just felt like there was something missing. So now that it's been added to obviously LA and just the Olympic Games in general, it just opens up a whole nother avenue for sprint athletes, particularly myself that specialize in the 50 and in sprinting. But it's also just so exciting to watch. So really excited for it.
Hmm. Nice. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So when you're looking at coming from here in Cape Town, a small town, if you're comparing it to the US as a whole, right, with 52 different states they have on that side, what was the biggest adjustment that you had going from South Africa to the US?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd say that there's quite a few, but they're all sort of connected in a way, right? I'd say first of all, it's just the cultural differences, right, and pace of life. I think everything is bigger here, right? America is obviously just such a big country. You hear things
Mhm,
about like the size of Texas, right? The state, the
mhm,
province of Texas is bigger than most countries in the world, right? And so just knowing like there's a
mhm,
lot of people here, right? People are they're always busy, they're always doing something, and so it's literally just keeping up with that pace of life, right? Um,
mhm,
I'd also say adapt managing homesickness, right, and distance from family, right, being fully present. That was definitely something, because obviously once you make that commitment to being here, um, you're away from family, and that can be hard, right? And so just trying to stay connected, and also it helps when there are other international athletes that are around you, because they're in very similar positions to yourself, knowing that you're not really alone. For me, at least, every
mhm,
time I've come into contact with a South African here in Tennessee, it's been such a joy, because it's a little bit of a home away from home, right? But that's
mhm,
also definitely just an adjustment to make. Um, I'd also have to
mhm,
say just adapting to the high intensity, right, and structured training, knowing that, like I
mhm,
already mentioned, it's so competitive and at such an elite and high level, right? Knowing that. They know what they're doing, yeah, right? And you
mhm,
once you make that commitment, like, you have to follow through with it. And the last thing I'll say is just the academic system, right? They have everything mapped out for you, regardless of what career path you choose to go.
mhm,
And they also give you time to really just figure out what you want to do, who you are as a person, and which direction, And so it's
mhm,
definitely great.
mhm. Of course, and from an academic side, you have that support of the professors, and then even your coaches are pushing you as well. Because essentially, if you're not performing in the pool or you're not performing in the classroom, so to say, you probably won't be traveling
Yeah,
with the team that weekend as well.
yeah.
Okay, nice. So the typical day during the season, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so honestly, very very similar to the schedule that you mentioned earlier on. Right, just high demanding training session and hours as well. Waking up super early, around 6 o'clock. Having to get a training session in right before classes start. Um, so I then say you wake up, eat something, get something in your system. 2 hour practice, breakfast. Then you'll do class
Hmm.
for about, I don't know, 3 to 4 hours, grab lunch, maybe take a nap, maybe study for a bit. Then you get ready to do another afternoon practice for about 2 hours, maybe throw a gym session or some dry land on top of that. And then you're already trying to prep for the next day. And that then involves your dinner, your recovery, homework, and then getting ready for bed, right? You do the same thing over and
Hmm.
over again.
Hmm.
As a
Hmm.
pro, as a professional now, um, even when I was juggling my masters, um, and then also, working at the same time, it's still a lot of demanding hours. And so for me, I'd say that the big thing was just trying to find balance, right? Knowing that you set a certain amount of time to focus on what you have to focus on, right? Knowing that when I'm at the pool, I'm focused on my training. When I'm in the classroom, I'm focused on school. When I'm at home, I'm focused on recovering, fueling, eating, my nutrition, relaxing, things like that. And then when it's time for bed, you sleep and you recover, right? And so also
Hmm.
just being present.
Hmm. So when your practice is over or the goal is over, no swimming talk at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's naturally as athletes, right? You always want to talk about it, especially to like your friends if you're around them, right? But it's also good to
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
separate the two, knowing that like we're
Hmm.
if you're young, because you have the opportunity to swim, but knowing that like you're more than just a swimmer, right? You're more than
Right.
just like a student in the classroom. More than this, you're actually who you are,
Hmm.
and staying true to that as well.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. And before you went to the US, of course, you had to be in incredible shape because you're now going to a top Division 1 school, so you can't go there not in shape, right?
Yeah.
How would you compare the training from what you had here compared to in Tennessee itself?
Oh, it's much more demanding, right? I think both physically and mentally, right? They will push you, right? In a good way, right? Just because I think
Hmm.
in South Africa, there is somewhat a lack of accountability and consistency just because, we're still figuring things out, right? I just think from a
Hmm.
numbers standpoint, America they have a huge advantage because they can try things and they get a lot of feedback, right? And so over here, there's a huge amount of accountability and consistency as well. And then not to mention the training
Hmm.
sessions are at a higher volume. There's a lot more attention to detail. And so I think the position that Brady and I are in now, it's like we can come back to South Africa having experienced this, and we can kind of pass that down, knowing that like, okay, we're trying to get to that level, right?
Hmm.
But at the same
Hmm.
time, in South Africa, like we're trying the best, we're doing the best that we can with what we have, right? Which is also a thing in itself, which is important to remember. Because when people like us, when we go to America, right, it's not like we're at a disadvantage, right?
Right.
We're not at a deficit. We just arrive here and we're like, oh, this is great. We're gonna take
Hmm.
we're gonna take full advantage. We're gonna maximize this opportunity, right? And we're just gonna move, you know. So
Hmm. Hmm. Of course, yes. And a lot of the times when I'd have chats with the coaches that side or that have any sort of recruitment calls, they mention quite a few times that they love South Africa simply because we have that work rate
yeah,
and because we have that opportunity on our hands, right? We know coming from whether we're coming from Cape Town or we're coming from Joburg or Durban, if anybody gets that opportunity and they're training that side, they have a proper schedule, everything's mapped out for them, they're going to grab it with both hands and do the best that they can. So the
yeah.
coaches, they do appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's, I mean, I used to make jokes about it from time to time, but um, you look at that the best pools in South Africa, right, compared to the best pools in America. There's a huge
Mhm,
gap, right? Just knowing it's like obviously they
mhm,
have a lot more financial support here that goes into it, and venues and
mhm.
opportunities, right? And already the worst pool in America is actually great, compared to the rest of the world,
Yeah.
right? And so for us, it's like we we take full advantage of it, right? And we are a lot of it is
Mhm,
also just like gratitude, right? Knowing that in South Africa, it's
mhm,
like I said, we do the best that we can, right? And we don't complain, we
mhm,
don't make excuses. We actually just show up
mhm,
and we get stuff done and we make
mhm,
things happen. So
mhm. Of course, yes. Because what are you gonna if you're complaining? What are you gonna do when your home's halfway across the world?
yeah,
You
exactly.
can't do anything. You kind of just have to go with it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I'm glad you mentioned in the situation on the pools itself, because I think maybe 95 to 100% of those pools that you're swimming in are heated.
Yeah,
So essentially, you don't have to worry about the pumps being broken
yeah,
or anything in that regard. I think maybe if there's a bit of snow, the snow may freeze the pipes, but then within a day it will be fixed.
yeah.
So the
Or they
facilities
get, yeah,
are top
exactly.
class. Yeah.
Or they call someone in to get it sorted out and they get it done on the spot as opposed to, you know, at a later time.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Of course, yes, 100%. And I mentioned earlier when I was talking about that throughout the season, swimming and the schedule that you have, the academics can take a mental toll on you. Right? How did you manage any sort of mental fatigue throughout the season, or did you have any performance anxiety at all?
Yes, I think naturally so, right? I think we're all human, right? And so it's very natural for that to happen. Ways that definitely helped me, and I've also just gathered information from people that I've been around, right? Is just trusting, like trust the process, right? Trusting your preparation
Mhm,
and having a routine, right? I think that definitely helps to just create some structure, right? And to also give you a little bit of confidence, knowing that you're doing the best that you can for yourself, right? I think also staying
mhm,
grounded, right? And I think as South Africans, I think that's also a cultural thing for us. We're really good at staying grounded and just having that another level of perspective. Um,
mhm.
on top of that, I think just communication, right? Talking to coaches, talking to teammates, right? I think
Yeah.
when the easiest way to take that pressure off yourself is when you stop making it about yourself, right? When you
Mhm,
incorporate other people, right, then it's a bit more inclusive. It's more focused around a team and other people knowing it's like, oh, I don't have to do this for myself. I get to have people around me that support me, that want me to thrive and do the best, right?
mhm,
And so that takes a lot of the weight off, knowing that you can actually just, be yourself,
mhm.
be present, right? And actually just enjoy it as well. And then I think on top of that, just like rest days and having fun outside of the pool, right? Because as I mentioned,
Yeah.
like you're more than swimmers, more than athletes, right? And that's also important because that helps you to also just enjoy yourself, have fun, stay true to who you are, and then you can
Mhm,
always come back to the pool and then get the work done. So
mhm, mhm. Of course, yes. And essentially, you're not a robot
yeah,
when you're that side. You're still human. And even being from here or from South Africa, you're seeing a whole new environment. You're coming across a whole lot of different cultures. So essentially, you do have to experience that. Apart from not having to get biltong or eat biltong on that side, what
yeah.
are some of the cultural at or cultural differences that you had to adjust to being in the US?
Yeah. So social norms, right? That was a big thing. It's a bit more casual in America, right? And somewhat expressive. But I think over time, just by interacting with Americans, right? I think the power that South Africans have is just the ability to relate and to connect with people. Just because we're
Mhm.
such a diverse country, right, and a unique group of people, right, and so once a year that sort of takes care of itself, right. Just given that we're also very open as well, I'd say the food and
Mhm.
portion sizes as well. For me, a big thing was like, in South Africa, it's like I could go to like a spa or like a shop right? And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, if I'm trying to get some bread, it's just very simple, or like
Mhm.
I don't know, any kind of thing. If you're going to America, they have so many options, and I think that's just because they are um, as a consumer and supply, they're thinking in terms of we have so many people here, so we're just trying to cover
Mhm.
the vast majority,
Mhm.
right? And so there's a lot of options. There's the pricing as well, the sizes, um, as well. You think in terms of, okay, the most expensive bread versus the cheapest, right? And in my mind, I was just trying to think, okay, what is actually like good for me? What is
Yep.
healthier, right? I think also in South Africa, the food as well. We don't have as many preservatives in our food as well. A lot of it is just fresh ingredients, whereas in America, a lot of it is processed foods as well. Because like I said, they need to cater to a lot of people, right? And
Mhm.
it's not just focused on
Mhm.
athletes; it's everyone in general. Um,
Mhm.
so food and portion sizes, the accents, slang, and just general banter as well. I mean, I don't know how my accent sounds right now, but over time, you do adjust like a few words just to get along with the conversations as well. But different part,
Mhm.
like with every country, with any country, different parts, right, have different accents, right. I'm obviously
Mhm.
in Tennessee, which is in the South, and so we have a Southern accent versus maybe somewhere in Texas, which is so they got maybe a bit of a Southern twang or something,
Mhm.
but that for sure.
Yeah.
And then also college sports culture, right? It's way bigger, yeah, right. That is definitely a big
Mhm.
thing, which I wish that South Africa could eventually get to that level, right? Um, People are very, very religious when it comes to college sports, right? Particularly football and basketball, just because those are two really big sports. And so, just for example, if it's ever a game day, let's just say a Saturday and it's a football game, the whole town is focused on watching football, American football, might I add, right?
Mhm.
And it's crowded, right? And in my mind, it's I mean
Mhm.
we don't have the exposure to American football, right? But just
Yeah.
knowing that people are so passionate about it, right? People are so proud about, and rightfully so, just because it's a great system. It works,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
very entertaining as well. But it's definitely quite big, and I'd say that the only thing that I can probably compare it to is more so like if we're watching clubs, any kind of club team in South Africa, that would be the
Mhm.
equivalent of a college team in America in terms of watching and
Mhm.
supporting on the TV. So
Mhm. And if you're comparing it to club team here in South Africa, you're talking about your FNB Stadium or your Cape Town Stadium, right? These football teams, it's filled with maybe 70, 80,000 people. And
yeah,
you're like, wow, these guys are only in college. They're the
yeah,
same age as me. And
yeah,
look at the stage that they're playing on. And also another thing I'm glad that you mentioned is the accent, getting adjusted to the accent as well. I think within my first couple of weeks there, I was talking and people were staring at me with a blank face, and I'm speaking UK English.
yeah,
So you do adjust to it being a South African on that side. Eventually, you kind of lean a bit more into the accent, but I mean, it's all part of the experience
yeah.
as a whole. When there's countless of students and athletes around the country whose dream is to go abroad. What advice would you give to these swimmers that want to go to the NCAA route?
Yeah. So a few things. I'd say the first thing is do your research, right? To find the right fit. I think there are multiple ways to first of all get connected, right, and to really just have that pathway. Um, however you do so, once you are here and in talks with a college, any college for that matter, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
you want to ask as many questions. You want to find out as much as you can about it, and then really just find the right fit for yourself, right? And a lot of that's just process of elimination as well. And also sometimes it becomes really simple, knowing that okay, if this college is going to give me the best offer, right, and this is where I get to compete, I get to go to these various competitions, right? I feel like this can get better. I can get better here. I can pursue this degree, this career. I can get better as an athlete, as a person, all those kinds of things. You definitely want to do your research around that. I would then say be ready to grow in and outside of the pool as well. A lot of my learning and growing as a person has come during the time that I've been in America. And a lot of it is just because you're here, you're exposed to a lot, and it actually forces you to grow up and to mature as well, right? I think my parents were definitely in a position where they had no idea what to expect, but a lot of it was there was the colleges that were communicating with my parents knowing that like, listen, we will take care of your son. We will look after you. We want him to obviously be the best person that he can be, the best athlete, right? And so at that point, it's knowing that I can actually take care of myself, and also have a bit of control over
Mm-hmm.
it. I'd also say embrace change, right? It's a huge change of environment, a learning curve, and so just take it on, right? Be present, allow it to just shape you, the way that you are, the way that you think, right, and the way that you see things, and you will definitely become a better person because of it. The last thing I will also say is use the opportunity to build relationships and to set up your future, right? Brady's a great example of this because obviously, even before going to the US, it's the connections that you have, right? Brady and I, we swam like together, either together or in the same city, right? Growing up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then look at it now. He's obviously been in America. I've been in America as well, and um, it's the connections that you have through a university that are either helping you along the way pursue, your swimming goals, your academic goals, career goals. Um, and if I look at where I'm at now, I'm currently, I'm trying to get a position working at the same pool that I swam at my entire life while being at college,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of that was because of the people that I know here, the coaches, the managers, right? Um, and it just have really just keeping those connections, building bridges, right, knowing that every connection that you make
Mm-hmm.
matters, and networking is so important as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's countless opportunities to make those relationships there, right? Because this one is maybe the head coach at this university, and next one is maybe director of recruiting, or whatever the case may be. You're exposed to all of these high profile people. This person knows that person, and it's definitely a case of who you know, and not necessarily all the time what you know,
Yeah.
right? Last question for you. Did you have any pre-race ritual or song that you always listen to, or did you have any superstitions that you had maybe on race day?
Yeah, so I have quite a few for all of those. I'm one of the very few swimmers to be known for doing something specific before I race, and a lot of that is actual like antics, dances, hand gestures, things like that. And so I don't have to go into too much detail, but for me at least, there are things that I like to do that help me to stay present, to also stay very loose, playful in the moment as well. And in my mind, it's like if I've prepared myself, to obviously be there, then I don't have to think about it as much. I can obviously trust myself, trust the process. I can back myself and be confident. And if
Mhm,
I'm actually just enjoying it, then the rest will sort of flow from there, right? Some of the superstitions that I have is there's this one T-shirt that I take with me everywhere I go, whether I wear it or if I have it in my bag. I just like to keep it with me. Um, if I don't have it with me, it's not the end of the world because it's just a T-shirt as well. But sometimes I just like having it with me. I do like to wear luminous green socks when I'm competing. And the reason why I do that is to really just remember my dad and really just connect with him. So whenever my dad is able to go to my competitions, he always wears a luminous green T-shirt in the crowd in the stands. That way I can see him. Um, and he has, I think, maybe like 10 pairs of that T-shirt, right? And I have like 20 pairs of the socks, right? And so for me, it's
Yeah.
like if I have the socks, he has the T-shirt. It's a way of just being connected with him.
Hmm.
And then another thing is I like to eat pizza before a competition as well. And the reason why I do that is the week before I qualified for the Tokyo Olympics, I had pizza, right? I had a lot of pizza, but
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so it's quite a
Okay.
bit there, but
So definitely that carbo load before, if it's not pasta, it's going to be some pizza as well.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Michael. That was everything you mentioned today was very insightful. I'm sure there's a lot of takeaways from that for everybody who's joined, for all the swimmers as well and the parents. I'll just go, we'll have a quick Q&A. I think a lot of the questions, if they're talking about swimming, it's going to be directed at you if they're talking about swimming at a high level. So we can just use a couple minutes, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes for
Yeah,
anybody who has questions, and we can address them.
that sounds good.
There's there's one question here in the meantime from Timo Logo. He asks or she asks, how do you prepare to swim at such a high level? There are many stories of students going straight to your Division 1 schools and not swimming because once they do get there, they're at the bottom of the pecking order. And where should someone like them start who's currently swimming on the junior national level?
Um, yeah, so I've definitely heard that from a lot of people as well. I have a couple close friends that were in those positions too. Um, it's very hard, right, to be in that kind of position. But my advice to you is just start with where you are right now, right? So obviously at a junior national level, um, there is somewhat of a blueprint, a path that you want to follow, knowing that okay, if I'm at a junior national level, if I can be the fastest junior, and then if I can break a record, if I can make junior national teams, right, if I can be somewhat connected, because the way that swimming works is, it's just the faster you are, the more exposure you get to go to competitions, to have these opportunities, right? When you
Mhm.
then throw in American colleges, right, I mentioned earlier on that any college that you go to is at a high level, right? Whether it's Division 1, 2, or 3, right? Obviously, if you look at the number one school right now in the country is Texas, right? It's highly competitive. And so at that point, if you see yourself wanting to compete, you have to know that that comes at there's a level that you have to be at in order to be there.
Mhm.
And so in my mind, my advice to people will always be find the right fit for you, find an environment where you know you'll be able to compete and be on the team and travel to all the meets. And then even while you're here, you already just by being here, you're better and you'll get faster because that's just
Mhm.
that's just how swimming works, right? The environment. You can always work your way up, right? At the beginning of
Mhm.
this, Brady showed a group of swimmers that all went through this process as well, right? That have had successful stories. A lot of them didn't end up at the place that they started. A lot of it was just having the opportunity and then working, getting faster, working their way up, progressing, then moving up from maybe a Division 2 to a Division 1 or a Division 3 to Division 2, right? And so just start where you are
Mhm.
and then take it one moment at a time.
Mhm. Perfect. Thanks, Michael. Ramiz also asks, in order to be recruited by a Division 1 school, is it strictly time-based, or are they looking at physical aspects, your height, and essentially, of course, whether you're, I don't think whether you're being bulky or stocky is that important, but are those like your height or your time's a big factor if you want to be recruited by a Division 1 school?
Um, I'd say yes and no. More so, like as far as the physical aspects go, not as much because you know an athlete is an athlete regardless of how you look, right? It's more so just what you're
Mhm.
able to do, right? There are stories of swimmers who that can swim really fast but can't jump really high, right? But
Mhm.
obviously, the goal is
Mhm.
to be fast in the water, right? And so that's the only measurement that you should go off of, right? I would say that obviously it is very, it's strictly time based as well, in the sense of how fast you're swimming and also what stage you're at, right? Because
Mhm.
if you are 26, 27 years old, right, you obviously there's a very high chance you're not going to be able to compete for a college just because there's obviously an age requirement,
Mhm.
right? So for me, I'd say the window in terms of thinking about college and preparing for that starts from the age of 16 through 17, right? That
Mhm.
is grade 10 through 11, right? That is when you want to start having those conversations, talking, getting connected. That way, once you get done with high school, when you matriculate, you can then go move on to college. So
Mhm.
yes.
Mhm. Perfect. Perfect. Miguel also asked, what were your requirements, Michael, to get accepted into your college, and what was the academic and swimming requirements, or was it based on anything else?
Yeah, so I mean, swimming is the first part, right? Just being fast, being at the level that was needed from the college. That's obviously one of the biggest requirements because the goal is to swim fast, yeah. And so that if you're a fast swimmer, that already takes care of half of it, if not all of it. On the academic side, that's also important. And so I don't talk about it as much, but in my mind, it was, obviously doing well in school as well,
Mhm.
or doing the best that I can to position myself to obviously meet the grade requirements, right? To then obviously go to college.
Mhm.
I picked Tennessee because for me it was the best swimming environment, and on the academic side, I felt like it was a good program, and I could also find a nice career. But there are other schools which focus more on academics. Like I at least know Stanford. Stanford is a lot more. They focus a lot more on the academics. And so if you don't meet an academic
Mhm.
requirement, doesn't matter how fast you aren't going, right? So that kind of thing. So for
Mhm.
me, at least, making sure when I was in high school, I did the best that I can, and then while I was here, staying on track with it, right? I know that while I was here, I was swimming fast, but I was also, you know, doing one in the classroom. I made the academic honor roll for 3 years in a row, right? And so knowing it's like if you have the skills in swimming and you can apply it to your academics and to school, then the rest sort of takes care of itself.
Yeah, it definitely comes in handy because, like you mentioned, your Stanford University, not maybe so much known for swimming or the sport, right? Same goes MIT. You could be a
That's
how you could be blitz, right? But the chances of getting into a school like MIT, it's extremely difficult. Same
yeah,
goes for a school like maybe NYU or your Harvard.
yeah, exactly.
It's great for these students and the athletes around the country to have those aspirations and to have that dreams, right? But essentially, if you go that side, you do want to swim. You do want to swim at that level, whether you be in the middle of the order, you have that ladder to climb. And as a swimmer, that's what you need, right? To to improve.
Yeah.
Katie asks roughly how much mileage do you do each session? Probably maybe peak season.
Peak season. So while I was on the college team, it would vary from 5 to 7 Ks or kilometers per session, regardless of the focus. I think part of it is um, there's always the water jug analogy, where as a swimmer you're a water jug and they're trying to fill you up with as much as possible, right? And that's
Mhm.
just you being in the water, just training, right? Focusing on technique, speed, all of that. And then the actual tap, right? Or the faucet in America is what they call, right? If you can, that is more so the output. That is, I don't know, just what you're able to produce on race day. If that's also, you know, if that's too big, then it all comes out at once, right? And you lose it.
Mhm.
If it's just the right size, then you get a good amount of water coming out of that, right? And so it's a lot of it is also just balance because it also depends on what event you're doing. I'm a pure sprinter,
Hmm.
and so I don't have to be doing as much that versus someone who is focused on a more distance and open water, right? And so it really just depends as well.
Hmm. Hmm. And I think that ties in with Joshua's question, right? We ask you being as a sprinter, is it more weightlifting based or more so aerobic based?
Yes. So my training, especially now is a lot more like weightlifting and gym based. It's probably 50-50 for myself, knowing that if I'm um, in the weight room and in the gym doing explosive power movements, that also translates to what I'm doing in the water, right? But
Hmm.
you also got to remember that like I'm not trying to be the best in the weight room. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilding bodylifting champ, right? I'm trying to be the fastest in the water, and so you gotta separate the two, knowing that that's supposed to help you swim faster in the water, right? Um,
Hmm.
I would also say the other thing is also um, just listening and understanding what your body needs as well, right? As a swimmer, you're the only person that knows how your body what your body is like and what your body is feeling, and so over time you're going to learn more and more about yourself, right? Before I came to college, I wasn't in the gym a lot. I didn't look the way that I look right now, right? For me, I was basically just doing a lot of body weight stuff. But as I came here to America, I learned more about the technique. I learned more about the exercises that I was doing, and over time I was able to um, put the work in, improve, get stronger, more powerful, faster, right? But that took time, of course.
Hmm. Hmm. Perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
Miguel asked, you know which universities are the best for swimming? I think everybody knows it's going to be your school, Texas, of course. But I'm
Yeah.
looking at, I know I had a look recently over the last couple of days at the top universities in college, and Tennessee is actually in the top five. Did you guys get to celebrate that when you were on that side?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We had a lot of big celebrations. Yeah. And I think that's really a testament to what the program and the coaches have been doing here. Right. Texas is number one. They're very dominant just because of the 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 actual program, knowing that they've been dominant for the past couple years now, right? And so it's not just a
Hmm.
one time thing, right? They've been building up to that, both on the men and the women's side. Another school that's really good is Florida as well, um, and then California as well. Tennessee, I think we're one of the few schools to obviously have both the men and the women in the top five as well. And I think, like I said, a testament to the program and the coaches and also the athletes as well. We have world class athletes, right? On the women's side, we have Olympians. We have Mona McSherry, who is a bronze medalist in the 100-meter breaststroke for Ireland. Right on the men's side, we are I like to say the sprint freestyle college, in the
Hmm.
US. We have guys like Jordan Crooks, Guilherme Caribe, right? And Lamar Taylor and Nikolai Blackman. So a lot of, they just broke the NCAA record in the 200 freestyle and 400 freestyle relay, right? But like I said, like these are
Hmm.
guys that have come in not in the position that they are now. They've come in just with raw talent, right? With the desire to want to be here, to get better and improve. And over time, they've progressed. They've
Hmm.
they've just been present. They've been learning and growing as well. And they've also had the exposure, right? And it's now to the point where a lot of them are now in their third to final year of college, and they are now obviously doing really well. So
Hmm. Of course, yeah. So they come with that raw talent, and essentially they get molded into being that prime athlete, right?
yeah,
And just everything that you mentioned, it's a pure testament to the level of competition that you'll find in these Division One schools, right? I think across your maybe top 10 Division One colleges and the swimming programs, you basically be coming up against Olympians,
yeah.
right? And that's your competition.
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly. And it's, I mean, the for me at least, being in the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, right? So for
Hmm.
those who don't know, right, obviously there are so many states, so many number of states in America and provinces, right? You A few states are assigned to different conferences, and so the one that I'm a part of is obviously the ACC, and that includes Tennessee, Florida, Texas, Alabama, Auburn, right? And so there's about 10 to 12 different schools, right? And
Hmm.
I know this is a fact, but I'm also biased knowing that the ACC is actually the most competitive conference, in the US, right? Not just in swimming, but in other sports as well, right? Just because I think a lot of the money
Hmm.
is also put towards this conference as well, knowing that like it's such a high level, it gets the most exposure as well, right? But like Brady was saying, it's like there are Olympians here as well, right? And so you pull up, you would go to these competitions, right? And you'd see familiar faces around, knowing that like you actually have to compete against these people, right? And so it's highly competitive, right? But like I said,
Hmm.
this is the place where you want to be. You want to have that
Yep.
exposure. You want to be able to swim against Olympians and race and to get better, because that in itself will
Hmm.
push you and drive you to be faster, right?
Hmm. Of course, yes. Excellent. Well, great. Thank you, Michael. Definitely appreciate that. A huge thank you to you for sharing your journey, your insights as both an Olympian, uh, training in the States, and just being a student athlete. I think it's been incredibly valuable. I'm sure a lot of swimmers today are feeling both inspired and informed, really. I think if there's one thing we hope that these students and the parents can take away from the webinar is that there's no one right path, right? Whether you're aiming for Division One or you're looking for a strong academic athletic balance in your Division Two or your Division Three, the NCAA system as a whole, they offer incredible opportunities for both growth in the pool and in life itself.
Exactly.
Perfect. So what we'll do now is that is the end of the webinar. There's one more slide here for you guys. We do at Sable, if you guys would like to go this route, if you're looking to study abroad, swim in the US as well, you're more than welcome to scan this barcode for a free evaluation, and myself or one of my other colleagues will be in touch with you so that we can get the process started. So I'll just give you a minute or so to scan that barcode, and then we'll be signing off here tonight. Perfect. Thanks everybody again for spending part of your day with us. Remember to stay focused, keep dreaming big, and maybe one day we'll see you all on poolside at the NCAA National Championship.